Let me introduce you to the people whose obsession became their addiction, built empires, fueled investments, and shaped our future. I'll walk you through the crazy, the impossible, and the spark that fueled someone's passion become the right side of obsession. What one person might call crazy, another will say obsession. Together, we will explore how the right side of obsession can fuel your motivation, transform the impossible, and build your resilience to make you unstoppable. Watch as I take you inside the obsession to witness the hyper-focus and laser beam energy required to grow your business and build your empires. Obsession has birthed inspiration and fueled dreams. I will show you how the obsession is necessary to turn your passion into profits. Welcome to the season of I Own It. Obsession, where one person's dreams become a reality. Our next guest is on a journey to transform the lives of people not only in the US, but all over the world. Marczell Klein is a hypnotist, confidence trainer, motivational speaker, and success coach. He's helped numerous people boost their confidence and work towards achieving their goals by using cutting-edge psychological techniques they developed through the years of research and study. Marczell's portfolio has evolved, including personal development seminars, individual and group sessions, hypnosis courses, and sales training. He studied neuro-linguistic programming and received his diploma in clinical hypnotherapy. As a rising entrepreneur, welcome to the show, Marczell Klein. You were born into a wealthy family that went bankrupt during the 2008 recession. What did you learn from this experience, and how did it fuel your obsession to help other people?
I didn't know what money was until my parents started to lose everything. And I remember being able to have whatever I wanted. We were eating fancy restaurants every day. My dad had a new car every month. And then in 2008, when the recession hit, there's a lot of variables. A lot of things went wrong at the same time. And it obviously put my parents in a pretty difficult situation because they had a very high overhead and cash flow is not overnight. If you're doing real estate, cash flow doesn't happen every day.
Right.
And it really put them in a tricky situation. But what I learned is two things. One, that I never want to be in this situation again. And if I can help it, I will make sure that I will never, ever, ever feel the way I felt or saw how my parents feel. I'll make sure no matter what, I'll never be in this situation again. And two, I realized that nothing's forever. You got to be grateful, and you got to understand that everything can be taken away from you. So you have to think ahead. And I feel like those two qualities are what allowed me to have massive success. One is the fact that I understand that I can lose it all tomorrow. And two, how do I predict what problems might show up so I could best mitigate or hedge against them?
Marczell learned from the mistakes his parents made. And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's from Ken Schramm. A smart person learns from his mistakes, but a truly wise person learns from the mistakes of others. Your mind is a muscle. Are you investing in training your brain, building a stronger mindset just as you do your body? Is that what fueled your learning, all the knowledge you have, the experience you've developed in a short period of time? Did that experience help really expand your knowledge?
It was the beginning of what fueled it, but I was so young at the time that I was, I think, 10 or 11 when it started. But what fueled it more was seeing my parents' health deteriorating and seeing how stressed they were all the time over money. And I said, well, if I can make the money, they don't have to be stressed. And then that is what initially fueled me, is how do I help my parents out? And that obviously expanded into more than just helping my parents, but how do I help other people? The problem I see people have is that their motivation is when I get a car, I get a house, or when I make a little bit of money, cool, but then you get it and you lose your motivation, you get comfortable. You can't be comfortable if you're trying to make an impact, you're trying to change the world, you're trying to make a bigger difference. If it's not about you, you'll never, ever, ever be comfortable.
You don't do drugs, you don't drink. Is it because of that experience that you really say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to double down and really make sure that I continue to be healthy, become the best version of myself because I know I'm impacting people? And is that where the obsession lies?
I think it's not so much from my parents losing it all. It's more so seeing my dad having had 10 heart surgeries in his life, seeing the fact that I really value time and I want to be here as long as I possibly can to make the biggest impact I can. And you know, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I think a lot of people throw away their health. And I've been fortunate enough to help people who are in situations where they're not healthy. And I see people who are terminal. You know, I had a client, terminal brain cancer, 17 years old, is no longer with us. But I see someone like that who does everything and is fighting for his health every day. And other people, they go and they drink and they throw their health away and they don't care. And I'm like, you know, what you're taking for granted, you would give up the world for if you lost it. So instead of appreciating things when I don't have it, I've really learned to appreciate things while I do. And it might seem like, you know, when you have a lot of money, you might be a bit nonchalant about it. But that's because I understand that money is not the thing that is important. It's the time. And that's why I value my health. That's why I value the people I'm around. That's why I really, really don't like to waste any time. And I think if you value time over money, you'll become wealthy. If you value money, well, then you'll sell your time for it. So I'm obsessed with being the best version of me and making the biggest impact I can.
Remember what Marczell said about time, that time is worth more than money. So what are you doing to value your time? If you're obsessed with money over time, you won't make as much money. So think about who is accessing your time. Who are you spending your time with? So if you're seeking to make more money, really value your time and be obsessed with your time. So you help people all throughout the world build confidence, as we know. How does hypnosis help them?
Well, hypnosis is the mechanism that allows someone to make an instant change. So if someone goes through something traumatic, for example, you're in a car accident, suddenly you're scared of cars. You were in a trance. The second that happened, you were in a trance and it made an instant change. Similarly, in a positive fashion, you can make a positive breakthrough. Let's say you want to get married. There's a moment you decided to get married. There's a moment you decided to start the business. There's a moment you decided to quit a bad habit. There's a moment you made the change. So change happens in a moment. Hypnosis allows you to take those moments, which usually happen for people sometimes in 6 months, a year, sometimes every 5 years, and I can take what would be 3, 4, 5, 10 moments that would take someone their whole life to have these changes. I could condense that into just a few minutes, and now they've had the biggest shift they've ever had in their life, and it changes their trajectory. The biggest thing I say is, how do you save someone time? Because if I can get to that result or that mindset or that belief early on, change my behavior, change the way I act, then I'll do it. And a lot of people don't believe in hypnosis, but the truth is, you know, to not believe in it is a really ignorant thing. If there was a tool that allowed you to change instantly, why wouldn't you want to investigate it? Why just dismiss it right off the bat? I just think it's such an ignorant way of looking at it. And if you're able to maybe understand more about it, like why would the government spend over $250 million on it? Why is it illegal in some countries if it's not real? You know, why am I in business if it doesn't work?
That's right. So you speak all over the place. You teach a lot of people. Do you feel you're obsessed with helping people?
It's my biggest passion. Nothing to me, like when I was young and they're like, hey, we're going on a field trip, we're going to Disneyland, I'd get up, I'd be excited. Well, same thing happens when someone's like, hey, you're going on stage. I'm going on stage on Sunday, I'm going on stage next weekend, I'm going on stage the following week. And some of them spend every last dollar just to show up to the event, right? Just so you could, I'm their last hope. You gotta deliver. And people might be like, oh, I've been to his event before. Every event's different. It's never the same. There's different people in the room. There's different things thrown at me. I have different problems. People say things that are wild and unexpected. And I just got to be sharp. I got to be on point. I got to be skilled, or I cannot help the person in the room.
Because in your speaking engagements, you know, you might get a question or someone wants some help. You have to adapt and you have to be mentally sharp, and that's something that you display consistently.
You know, I think a lot of people are so rigid, they want structure, but
Right.
There's no structure in life. If there was structure, you'd be able to predict the next lottery. You'd be able to predict a lot of things. And the best way to prepare is to prepare for anything, right? When you look at a soldier, they're preparing for anything. When you look at an athlete, they're preparing for anything. You know, you might try a strategy and hopefully it works, but if things don't go to plan, you got to make sure that your focus isn't on the plan, it's on the result. And that's my only focus. Am I getting the result? If this isn't working, I'll pivot. If someone throws something at me, I got to adapt. You know, sometimes I'll try something, I'm using an angle, I realize I'm not going to get the outcome here, and I'll change. And it looks smooth. Someone watching from the outside may not even notice that I pivoted, but the truth is I'm constantly changing.
Right, and to sum up what you're saying is you have to embrace change. and you need to be obsessed to where you're going, and change is going to be part of that process.
I mean, look, if you're not obsessed, you're not going to get there.
Right.
There's going to be so many, I believe the universe likes to filter things out. It likes to say, hey, are you really pursuing your purpose? Because if you aren't, you're going to give up. And most people give up because they're not pursuing what they're passionate about. If you're obsessed with it, there's nothing in the world that will stop you from getting it. Nothing in the world will stop me from reaching my result. Nothing in the world will stop me from continuing to make an impact. And I know this because I've been in way more dire situations, and I've come out the other side. How much harder can it be now? I'm way more successful than I've been. I have way more resources, way more skill, way more connections, way more talent. So if I've gotten over the problems before, it's inevitable that I'll get over them now.
Absolutely. So I always want to ask you this. What is your take on people you meet who are obsessed with their life or their passion?
I think that they're going to end up being the best at what they do. If someone's truly obsessed, they're going to be the best version of them. They're going to be the best at their skill because they'll do anything it takes to continue to improve. And I could see the difference between someone obsessed versus someone who isn't. It's very, very clear. There's a discipline. There's a standard that they hold to themselves. When someone has a lower standard, you could see that they're not really perfect at what they do. And it's how you do one thing is how you do everything. For me, it's, you're not going to see me half-assing work. You're not going to see me half-assing my health. And you'll never see me half-assing relationships. Everything I do, I go all in on it because that's just my standard. And a lot of people, if you see them being lazy today or lazy tomorrow and they're consistently inconsistent, they're not really obsessed. When you're in love with someone and they call you at 3 a.m. and you want to see them, you're going to go see them.
That's right.
So if you're not in love with the goal, you're not obsessed with it, it's not going to happen.
So why is it important that they don't give up on their dreams?
Because there's no such thing as giving up. I mean, to me, it's like giving up just means you didn't really want it. Right. It means that you just changed the result you're looking for. You never really desired that. Like when someone says, I gave up on getting in shape, and you were never getting in shape. It's either you did or you didn't. It's either you made it or you didn't make it. It's either you're doing it or you're not doing it. So for me, it's like, I'm giving up. I failed. You didn't fail. You just changed your mind.
A lot of people out there, and you see this all the time, we talk about this, is that they feel that if they're obsessed, they're worried about what other people think. He's ignoring me, or the relationship suffers, as you know. What do you say to our audience or people out there about obsession and why it's important and how to deal with the fear of and what other people say?
I think if people are worried about what others are going to think about them, they're going to spend a lot of mental capital on that rather than the mental capital necessary to deal with the problems, to foresee what's going to come, and to be able to handle the obstacles that will come to you in entrepreneurship. And I think that if you're focused on what other people think about you, entrepreneurship's not for you. What's for you initially is to build up your confidence. Confidence is the number one trait that you'll see in someone who's made it. And you cannot be obsessed without confidence. And if you're really obsessed and you really have something that's going to make an impact, it means you have a selfless thing. I think insecurity is a selfish trait. You're thinking about yourself. What are people thinking about me? I could care less how I'm perceived because at the end of the day, my mission is to help others. My mission isn't to look good in front of others. Now, someone might say, well, look at how you dress, look at your cars, look at this. I didn't buy these things for other people. I buy them because I enjoy them. Everything I do is because I enjoy it. And I want to make a bigger impact in other people's lives.
I want you to ask yourself, do you care what other people think? Because caring about what other people think is such a waste of emotional capital. Remember what Marczell said. There's no such thing as quitting. If you quit, you never really want it. If you're really obsessed and you want your desired outcome, you are not going to quit. You're going to go for it. Describe how being obsessed fuels your creativity, your motivation and enjoyment in your profession.
Well, if you think about it all day long, that's all I do is think about where I'm going and how I'm going to get there faster, how I'm going to scale, how I'm going to grow, how I'm going to make a bigger impact, how I can improve my skill set. If that's all I think about, I'm going to get into the habit of constantly improving. If you haven't seen me in 2 weeks, then it's almost like you don't even know me anymore. And a lot of people, you'll see them in a year and nothing's changed. You'll see them in 6 months, maybe a little bit's changed. For me, if you haven't seen me in 2 weeks, I'm a different human being because I spent so much time improving that I'm not even the same. The strategies, if you were in my company a week and a half ago and you're not in and out, you're not up to date at all. You have no idea what's going on. And that's because things move fast. The world happens fast, so you got to move fast. Right. And I think if you're obsessed with something, it's really just about time. Like there's a lot of problems. I always tell people in my seminars, when you say, hey, I want to make $1 million a month, I want to make $100 million in my company, whatever. The first question that pops up is what? How? And then people stop at how. Yeah. If you stop at how, you're not obsessed. If you're obsessed, you're going to figure out how.
That's right.
You're going to do the math. Just obsession is what allows you to solve the problem. But if you're not even motivated to go beyond how, you're thinking about the wrong thing. And you don't have the confidence to believe it's even possible. If you knew for a fact you'd get it, you'd be motivated. If I gave you a losing lottery ticket, you going to cash it in?
Of course not.
But if it was the winning lottery ticket, you'd do anything to go get it.
I'd probably tackle you.
I believe everyone has a winning lottery ticket. I think everybody has a winning lottery ticket. Just the question is, are they willing to cash it in? Do you believe you have the winning lottery ticket? If you don't, you're not going to go cash it in.
Well said. So you know my love for commercial real estate.
Yeah, of course.
And you use your home for all aspects of your business. And what role does real estate play in your business model or your portfolio?
So I view real estate in a very, very different lens than most people do. I view it as a luxury, and then I'm able to monetize the luxury. So traditionally, if you buy a home, would you say it's a good investment?
No.
Obviously not. It's not really bringing cash flow.
Right.
Would you say renting a home necessarily might be a good investment?
It depends on what your strategy is.
Exactly. But so, if I'm sitting here as an investor and I'm investing in, this mansion, I'm renting it.
Right.
I've been renting it for 3 years almost, and I look at that and I say, hey, is that my best strategy? Well, am I going to make money on this? Mm-hmm. No, not directly. Are my cars making me money? I lose money on every single thing that's in this garage. But they make me money because they put me in a good mindset, they put me in abundance, and I'm able to then be creative enough to either have an event or monetize it or strategize differently. And I think a lot of people are so constrained. Like when they think about just real estate or think about any area, they're thinking about it in a box. And there's different ways to look at it, and there's different ways to be creative. If someone's trying to get into real estate, they're not in real estate. Maybe they don't know what to do, and you might go into a bad deal and you might lose your money. So they can go to someone like you, and you'll guarantee that you'll bring in probably the best returns for them of almost anyone conservatively. And that's because you have someone with experience. Another example of how you might leverage real estate, and this is how I like to leverage real estate, is I like to look at deals that are worth way more than the person's asking. I come in, get it for practically nothing, and then flip it before I even finish. That's my favorite way to do real estate because I don't want to be in it long term. I like to make money quickly. Like in my industry, I make money very, very fast. My sales cycle is a couple hours. For real estate, sales cycle could be a lot longer. So whatever for me is about how do I make it happen faster. Now, as I have way more money and I just don't know what else to invest in, I'm definitely going to diversify later on all into real estate because real estate's a great hedge against inflation. It always appreciates. It's a solid piece of, it exists. It's a piece of land. It's not going anywhere.
It's a hard asset.
Exactly.
Like
and it's one of the oldest industries in the world. I think real estate's, if you're conservative and you want to really make a lot of money, real estate's the best investment, especially if you have a lot of excess capital. It's incredible. But if you're just starting off, I think a lot of people get confused. They're like, hey, let me go into real estate right away. I think you should go into something that makes you a lot of cash right away or gives you skills that allow you to raise a lot of capital right away and then go into real estate. But if you don't have a lot of capital, it'll take you a long time to make any money in real estate.
Well, and the nice thing is you can get into real estate, say through my company Alliance, by investing a little bit. So you don't need a lot of money.
And you've done that for people. Right. So you're able to help a lot of people. And I think that's another thing that's incredible is that you're able to reach so many different people and change their life.
Real estate is an excellent tool for your business. Marczell is using his house to amplify his brand and build his business. Are you using real estate to build your success too?
What is the biggest thing holding back people from living their full potential?
It's their beliefs. They don't believe it's possible. They don't know how to do it, and they also just don't have the confidence that that person can live in their that life. I remember, look, 8 years ago, I had no money. But I was very confident. I was 18, I had no money. I was, literally broke. I didn't even really know how to hypnotize anyone yet. And then I started getting into hypnosis, and I started getting into coaching and mindset and all that. And very, very quickly, when I just started to learn this, I realized what was possible. I think within a year, my goals went from, I'll make maybe 5 to 10K a month to, I need to become a millionaire. And then at 22, 4 years later, I was a millionaire. Now at 26, I make more money a month now than I made in a year back then. So I think what's really important is it can happen so fast.
Well, and you've been obsessed with educating yourself, learning, getting up to speed, expanding your knowledge, and that's what's been able to accelerate your income.
And I think a lot of people might say, hey, well, what books do I read? Like, Marczell, what books did you read?
Right.
Look, I'm a best-selling author. I haven't read a book besides my own since 6th grade. I just think it's a slow way of learning. I would rather take in and consume a video at like 2x speed, or I'd rather just Google the answers to the questions I have, rather than read an entire book and waste time, because there's a lot of unnecessary information. I don't need to sound smart. I don't need to have an excess of knowledge or information. I only want to know what helps me achieve my result. And I think the only way to know what the gap is to take the action. When you take action, you know what you don't know. Like, if I go try to sell someone and I didn't close them, I know that I don't know how to sell. If I need to sell people and I have no one to sell, I know I have no idea how to market or get leads. So I know where the gap is. I'm going to go study those things. Rather than studying everything, I think studying everything is a luxury once you've already started to achieve the success you're looking for. But you should dial in, become obsessed, and only learn whatever it is you want to learn. Become the best at whatever it is you want to learn. Know more about it than anyone else. And that's how you get the results faster than anyone, and that's how you get the best results. And that's what you've done. How many people do you know that get mid 20% returns annually every year?
Not often.
And
not
give that.
many.
No one.
Right.
No one does that.
Right.
Look it up. Anyone watch this? Go look it up. Find someone who does that. Nobody does that. Why? Because you're obsessed.
That's right. You attribute your success to your parents, and we talk about it frequently, and they wanted to make sure, and you wanted to make sure they could retire early. Why was that so important to you?
I think it's because my parents gave me everything. Even when we had nothing, I quite literally know my parents took the food out of their mouth to make sure I was eating and felt like everything was normal, you know? And I know how hard it is to be successful for your whole life and build everything for your family and then lose it all. I mean, and I understand that they were able to even stay in a positive mindset after that. So seeing that they're in a positive mindset, and by the way, my parents do well now. My mom has a $3 million a year moving company. My dad has, a farm. He does really well with that. So when I look at all these things, my parents have actually come back around. They've done it themselves, and they don't want to retire. I've tried to retire them. They don't want to retire. But I do my best. I try to buy my parents new cars all the time. I got them a house, like all these other things. And when I look at that, I think my biggest motivator is love. I love love, and I love to take care of people. And I know we don't have a lot of time, so I want to make sure that in every moment I spend and every moment they spend, it's the best they could possibly feel. They're happy, and there's no regrets. I don't look back and say, oh, I should have done this for my parents, or I should have done that. And I feel like that's what's allowed me to really level up faster. That's what's allowed me to kind of just get to that next level. I felt like I was an underdog. I was bullied. Nobody liked me. Everyone told me I wasn't going to succeed. I dropped out of college. Everyone was like, what are you doing? You're going to be a loser. What is this hypnosis thing? They didn't see what I saw, but I saw the vision, right? And I think anyone watching this, if you see the vision, don't give up, because you see it. People don't see what you see. And I just went all in, and everything that came my way, I pushed past and overcame it. My ultimate goal was really to help people. It was always about others, not about me.
Marczell, thank you so much for having us and spending time with us. What a privilege.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother.
I appreciate it.
Obsession can drive people to do things they wouldn't normally do. Obsession can prioritize your dreams over daily comforts and create the momentum you need to go from good to great. Now it's your turn to fuel your obsession and join others, great leaders, investors, inventors who are leading the path. What are you waiting for?